Hello, RenYu. This is Dr. Lay, and I'm excited to talk to you today about your writing. So let's take a look. Here's our course blog, and I asked you to choose two of these pre-writing activities for our project one. We are writing what I'm calling a partial literacy narrative, and I'm going to show you more about that later. But for the moment, for this moment, I want to talk about exactly what you've made, which is quite interesting. So the first thing that I want to do is share with you my feedback on this writing. And so what I'll do is I'm going to read to you what you've written and then suggest to you some ways that you might impact some change in that writing. All right. You've chosen the option of who is the storyteller in your family. And I note here that you may wish to describe the tale teller, but you also have to include one of the stories, which you do. Grandpa is a kind old man who always smiles. I never knew that the passing years not only dyed Grandpa's hair gray, but also left him many precious memories. Grandpa loves to talk about his experience. During lunch, Grandpa carried a bunch of grapes and picked a cool place. My cousin and I gathered around Grandpa's feet to listen to his story when he was young. My cousin and I, who are less than 6 years old, don't understand the connotation of the story, but at a young age, anyone who listens to adults feels interesting. So I hope Grandpa will tell us the story. Every time Grandpa said something, he peeled a grape for me and my cousin. When Grandpa was still very young, the family was very poor. The house was rented because there was no money, and a family of 4 was packed into a small house of 6 square meters. When he was hungry, he could only find some wild fruits on the mountain to fill his hunger. When I heard this, I was very puzzled and could not help asking my grandfather, "Why not eat some bread when you are hungry?" My grandfather told me that he was very poor. Bowl of white rice can only be eaten during the New Year. Now that society has developed, every day seems to be in the new year, and people's lives are getting better and better. I think the kind of hard days in Grandpa's stories will not come back now. I hope I won't come again in the future. This is an amazing story, and I have to, when I get signed in, I'm going to be sure that I can like this. Right now I'm not signed in, I'm on a different computer, so I can record this for you. I like this very much, but I want to strengthen it. One of the things that you'll notice when I was reading out loud, and I hope you can see my reaction, is that it captures a lot of wonderful, effective emotion. But there is some things that I think I can show you. For example, if I am to search for repeated terms, I see here that cousin is repeated in close proximity 3 times. Do you see here? My cousin and I, my cousin and I, and then here, me and my cousin. And writers do this, repeat words in close proximity for a certain impact. But in this case, I think because it's so close together, that maybe it's lessening the impact of the story. So I want to show you something that might strengthen the power of this good, fine writing. So let's take a look. You're going to see that I am supplying for you in Blackboard a worksheet, but I have to get there. Hold on, let me get out of this. Hold on one moment. Okay, so I have included, you'll see in your Blackboard site, this pages from this workbook called The Elements of Style. And if we page through, what I want you to work on some of these elements of composition. And I want you to think about writing with varied sentence lengths. One of the reasons why we do this, why we want to think about sentence lengths, is because we want it's almost like music, right? It's about composition. We want to keep our readers attuned to the sounds of our writing, and that they will pay attention to the things that we are making. So in English, the editor of this workbook says that writing sentences of different lengths helps keep the writer's attention. A longer sentence in English is usually a sentence upwards of 17 words. After 17 words, English speakers and writers tend to lose interest. So we generally want to alternate longer and shorter sentences. And if you look at your writing, it tends to be shorter. So I'd like you to try to think about practicing using shorter sentences in combination with longer sentences. So how we're going to do this. Here's our first example. We have two short sentences here. This in number 1. This man is to be pitied, period. He has no friends. And then I'm going to ask you to rewrite it 7 times. And so here's one possibility. This man has no friends, comma, and he is to be pitied. You see that the order of the two ideas has been reversed, and that's legitimate. You can do that. And then in the second, it's switched again. This man is to be pitied because he has no friends. And the third opportunity, because this man has no friends, comma, he is to be pitied. Fourth option, this man, comma, who has no friends, comma, is to be pitied. So you can see, RenYu, that we are going through these patterns so that we can grow as a writer. So now your job is to do the activity a few times over, and you'll see here the ostrich, right, which is a very stately bird. It's a very large, tall bird with a big, long neck. The ostrich is unable to fly. It has wings in disproportion to its body. So if we follow the pattern, let's say, of combining these, right, ostrich and it, they are the same thing. So how can we make these two sentences work together? I'll do number 1. I can follow this pattern laid out to me here in the example, or I can do it on my own. Well, I think I'll follow the example up top. Let's see. The ostrich is unable to fly, comma, and it has wings in disproportion to its body. Do you see how that somewhat looks like the shape of that sentence? So I'm going to ask you for your homework to fill this out. You can handwrite this, and if you can, scan it and give it back to me so I can have a look. That would be great. You'll do this for all of these questions for 3 and 4, all the way through to the bottom. I think you'll be an expert by the time you get to the next exercise. Now, the one thing I like about this workbook that we're using is that it is actually using some very famous writers. So this is from a wonderful novel by Daniel Defoe called Robinson Crusoe, written in the 18th century in England. So the text is older, but still highly readable because good writing never goes out of style. So what I want you to do is take Defoe's long sentences and make them shorter, right? Stylistically, in the 18th century, long sentences were in style. Okay, so I want you to think about that as you do this as well. So there's a bit of a trick. In the first activity, you will make the short sentences longer, and in the second activity, you'll make the long sentences shorter. And you'll do that just once. And then in the last activity in 8.3, you will marry them both, right? So rewrite these, combine the short sentences. So here you'll see two short sentences together. It rises, it becomes cool. And then you'll see some longer ones. And so you'll rewrite those so that they work for you. So that's what I'd like you to do for this activity. And then you'll join me again after you scan that in for your homework assignment. All right, let's get to work. Thank you.